Hi, English 9. It's Mrs. Sopiarz-Rianda, and I wanted to congratulate you because you've made it to the last official session of the second semester of English 9. And after this week, we are going to have final week, which I will go into detail a little bit today and more detail about it next week. But this is our last full week of content. So this is the last big push in English 9. So I know you guys are ready to be done and call it a summer, right? Okay, so here is our schedule for this week. We're working on session 4, and this is going to be due by May 18th before midnight. And also just wanted to point out here that final week is May 19th through the 27th, and our last day of school being the 28th. So I'll go in a little bit more detail about that in just a minute. So click on Unit Review, click on Session 4. You can see again that this should be the 18th, not the 14th. I'll change that, or 11th. I always catch, when I'm doing these videos, I always catch an error. So I correct it before I get it out there. So that's one good thing, huh? Okay, so click on the session plan, and as always, you'll find this weekly update video right here. Make sure you watch that, the very first thing that you do on Monday morning. Here is our assignment list for this week and the due date, which I do have it correct here. It's the 17th before midnight. You're going to be doing some peer editing on your review essay. Then you're going to be submitting your review final, or your review essay. It's kind of confusing with the name of the genre being review, because we do a lot of review in class. So the review essay is going to be submitted into turnitin.com. And then finally, our last assignment this session and this semester is Unit 8 reflection. So as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, our last day of school is the 28th, Wednesday the 28th. And starting May 18th, so starting next week on Monday, is final week. Now, this is not finals week, so there's no cumulative exam in English 9. All semester, you've been working on summative projects. So in every unit, there's been a summative project at the very end that shows your learning. And so as a result, we don't do a final exam in English 9. So next week is just final week because it's the last week. I guess I could call it the last week, but it doesn't sound as final as the final week. But anyway, this is the chance for everyone in every class to complete late work and or redo assignments to get their grade where they want it to be. So next week there's not going to be any new assignments except for a survey, and that will give you a chance to get your grade where you want it. And all late work is due by the 27th before midnight, because last day of school is the 28th, and that's when I report the grades. So here is our suggested schedule for this week. Right now, you should be watching this weekly update video and then going over the session materials. Go over the initial review of your revision, of your review essay. You should, by the end of today, by the end of Monday, have my feedback on your first draft of your review essay. That is my goal. So be sure that you look over that feedback tomorrow on Tuesday. But today, initially critically review your draft. Submit your draft into the peer review, and then provide feedback for one person today. Then tomorrow on Tuesday, go back to the peer revision and submit another and provide feedback for one other student. And then by Tuesday, you should have my feedback, if not earlier. So be sure to review feedback from your peer as well as from my feedback back in session 3. You can find, as you should know by now, you can find my feedback in your grades, and my feedback will be in the notes section in the Dropbox. So be sure to go back to session 3 into the Dropbox and look for my feedback there. If you do submit your final essay, your final review essay, without using my feedback from your first draft, what I'll say is go back to your first draft and look at my feedback there. Okay, so it's really important for you to not only listen and use the feedback from your peers, but also from me. And this is part of that writing process and the learning process. On Wednesday, be sure to review the requirements for this assessment one more time and look at the rubric that I'll be using. And then revise your review accordingly, your essay accordingly. Finally, on Thursday, submit it into turnitin.com, and then on Friday, you can submit your Unit 8 reflection. So as always, click Next in the upper right-hand corner. And so as I mentioned, this is the final session of this week and of this unit and this semester. So this week you're going to be revising your review draft using your feedback from peers and from me. You're also going to be reflecting on learning in the journal entry and finally submitting your essay into turnitin.com. And here are the essential questions that will be guiding our learning this week. So initial review, the very first step in the revision process is to review the first draft you completed back in session 3. So hopefully you've had a couple of days and you haven't looked at it, because it's helpful to kind of walk away from it for a little bit. It helps you gain some perspective. So you've often see errors after that break and you wouldn't see them otherwise. So once your paper has had a day or two to breathe, take a moment and do a thorough reading of your paper out loud. As you read it, you can find any areas of the paper that you are hard to read or the transitions aren't smooth. And you don't have to fix the errors now, but you should go ahead and mark them so you don't forget. It's also important to read the draft aloud because it'll help you hear errors as well. So even better, if you have a friend or family member read the draft to you, you'll get a much clearer perspective on the writing. And then once you're done, review the rubric that's right here and think about where your paper might score on the rubric. If your writing isn't where you like it to be, set priorities to fix what you'd like to change. And then click Next and submit your first draft into the Dropbox here using the File button. Then after you post your review, your first draft, what are you stuck on? Answer these questions. So what are you stuck on? Where could you use some help? And then after you've posted, I'd like for you to provide feedback for one thing that you think a person did well in their paper and one thing that they could improve. And be sure to answer any questions that they might have. And special note, no student should receive more than 2 reviews of their paper. So please make sure that everyone who's posted a paper has feedback. If you post, when you post your paper and you see 3 students and 2 of them have feedback, go ahead and provide feedback for that person that doesn't have feedback yet. Because you know how it feels when you post and you don't have anyone responding. Okay, so make sure, spread the love, spread the wealth, and make sure everyone has some peer review. And then click Next. So you've worked so hard, it's time to wrap up this paper. So read through your paper one more time and make sure you've incorporated my feedback, you've incorporated your peers' feedback, that you've utilized the planning outline from session 3. Remember, I provided you with an outline to utilize in the organization of your review essay. Oh, man. I'll have to go back to that. Technical difficulty here. Let me go back. Okay, so you have that outline, and then also that you have met the minimum qualifications outlined in our last session, so click here to review that, and that you've included in-text quotes and or paraphrases to give your review credibility. And click here to go back to the session 3 again to review that if you need to. You'll also want to take just one more last look with the rubric in hand to make sure you've done the best you can. This is what I always tell my own kids. It doesn't matter how fast you do it, it matters how well you've done it. So I'm asking you right now, have you done the best that you can? And that's what you need to ask yourself. Have I done the best that I can? And if you can answer yes, then go ahead and submit your paper into turnitin.com. If not, check out that rubric and revise. Okay? So here is information on how to submit your review essay into turnitin.com. If you've been in class this semester, we've submitted our definition essay here this semester. We also submitted essays last semester. So if you've been here the whole time, you should have an account and you can just skip right on down to step 6. If you have just entered the class this semester after Unit 6, then you'll need to establish an account if you haven't already. And these are great detailed directions. Follow them step by step. And be sure that once you do submit your essay, that you go back and you check the originality report. Okay, this originality report tells you and tells me what is your work. Okay, so if there is an issue with originality, you should have no more than 2 or 3% of originality issues. If so, then you need to take your essay and revise it and put it in your own words. Okay, be sure to be careful about plagiarism. And on this page, you don't have to submit anything here. As I grade the papers in Turnitin.com, I'll transfer the grades over to this assignment. This Dropbox is unable, so you cannot submit anything in this assignment. That's my job. And finally, our last assignment of this session, of this unit, and of this semester is a journal reflection. So as part of the learning process, it's really important to reflect back on which worked and what didn't work and what kind of questions you still have. So be sure to answer all 4 of these questions in thoughtful and well-developed sentences, and then submit them here in the Dropbox. Okay? And then a look ahead, and at the end of the session, again, next week is final week. So more information coming about that next week. If you have any questions about anything this week, like always, please contact me, and I'm happy to help. Thanks, guys.